You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network. Radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Hello, America. Welcome to the program. This is Rick Robinson, host of America Off the Rails. We're coming to you live right now from KLRNradio.com, also broadcasting over to you on LanternsRadioNetwork.com, AMFM247.com, RedNationRisingRadio.com, available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FM Player, Blueberry, Google Play Music, and a few others that I never can seem to remember. But good afternoon, good evening, good morning all around the world, wherever you might be. I hope everybody's had a great Tuesday. Of course, if you're listening live, it's Tuesday. If you're listening Memorex, it's probably Wednesday, maybe even Thursday, depending on where the show goes and when you're listening. But just want to take a moment to say I hope everybody's had a great week so far. I know it's early in the week, but it is, I mean, we're alive. Lots of interesting things going on in the news, a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. So what do you say we get things officially started right about now? All right, folks. Well, again, this is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We're coming to you live just like we do every Monday through Thursday night on KLRNradio.com, our home station, and I hope everybody is having an enjoyable Tuesday. Just finished up the Jen and Rick show with the triumphant return of Miss Jen Homestead, who's actually been off for the last week doing some day job type stuff. We were all over the map talking about a few things. Some of it, if you were listening to that show, we'll actually be talking about on this one too. We're going to start off in a slightly different direction, though. First of all, before I forget, because I didn't do this until about middle of the show last time, KLRNradio.com now has a shop on our website. So if you want KLRN.com stuff, make sure you go check it out. Now, right now, I mean, we're starting with some of the smaller stuff. We have coffee mugs, we have travel mugs, we have bumper stickers. We're starting with the stuff that we think you guys will actually use, because I know everybody starts trying to push things like T-shirts, everything else. I don't really see too many people running around with T-shirts from their favorite radio stations, so we're going to start with some smaller stuff first. We are eventually going to have stuff on for different shows as well, so just keep checking back there. Also, if you haven't yet, I do encourage you to go to KLRNradio.com and sign up for our newsletter. We send out a newsletter once a month with different takes from the different hosts and the station managers, etc. You'll actually find a bit from me on there, as well as a few others. So if you haven't yet, I do encourage you to sign up for that. No, we don't sell your information or farm it out to anybody else. So if you sign up there, please know your information is secure with us. We would never give it to anyone else without your consent. So that is not going to happen. Now, when we come back from the break that we're about to have to take here in just a minute already, believe it or not, we're going to be talking about this recent dust-up at the Blaze and my take on it, why it should matter, why it honestly in some ways shouldn't matter, and maybe some ways that it should have been handled a little differently. But we're going to talk about that when we come back. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We'll be back here in just a little over a minute.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails. We're actually going to start off by talking about this Tomi Lahren dust-up. Now, I actually put a question of the day out on Twitter, which is not something I do very often, but I'll probably start, actually. Maybe I'll do like a question of the week or something. And actually made this one a poll just so I could track responses a little bit better. And my question that I asked on Twitter was, can constitutional ideals and the ideology of pro-choice coexist? And the overwhelming answer to that was no. The reason I put that question out was I was seeing everyone starting to weigh in on the whole Tomi Lahren situation and what she had said during her shows on The Blaze versus what she had said during her time on The View. Now, I actually had the audio, and sadly for the moment I can't seem to find it, so I'm not going to have it to play. But it was a compare and contrast. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here, and then I'm actually going to talk a little more specifically about it. If you've heard the audio that they're comparing, you'll notice that in the bits that they're comparing, she's never, during any of the audio that they're playing, actually come out and said that she herself was pro-life. She had said that the pro-choice movement sounds like bloodthirsty barbarians because they don't come out and talk about the fact that abortion is actually the murder of a child. Which it is. You know, I don't think anybody necessarily disputes that unless you're a hardcore pro-choicer, because then, well, it's just a clump of cells, and why should that matter? Because they're not actually children until they're outside of the womb. Okay, so we'll let that side of the argument die for a second. But the simple fact of the matter is, in the audio that they're playing, she's never once that I could hear said anything about actually being pro-choice or pro-life. Either one, actually, until The View. Then she said that she was a limited government constitutional, was her exact word. I'm pretty sure she meant constitutionalist. But notice, even in those choices, she didn't really say that she was conservative. She said she was a limited government constitutionalist. So I'm wondering if at some point along the way we've started I think, and please bear with me for a second, stay with me because I promise it'll make sense once I'm done saying it. But I think when it comes to our radio and TV folks that we listen to on a regular basis, I think it's a lot like with our pets. We start ascribing them with our beliefs and saying, well, they feel this way because I feel this way, or I know they feel this way because you can see it from the way they look at us. And we don't honestly know how our pets are feeling, but we know, and we do very often, give them human characteristics in our head. I think in a lot of ways, we're doing the same things with our host, with the folks that we listen to on a regular basis. We're assuming that just because most of the time they sound like they agree with us, that they agree with us 100% of the time. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm going to be completely legitimate with you here. There are going to be times when you listen to the show, and if you've listened for a while, this has probably already happened to you. There are going to be times when I'm going to say something, and you are going to give me the "what you talking about, Willis" face. Because it's not going to make sense to you when I say it. That doesn't mean that my viewpoint is any less important or any less legitimate than yours. It just means that we're not always going to agree. Now, I think where Tommy may have gone sideways on this is I don't think she explained it very well, because I honestly think in some ways she has the same viewpoint as I do. I personally think abortion is abhorrent. I would never condone or excuse the taking of a human life, period, especially one while it's in the womb. I mean, there are going to be some exceptions, because in the line of work that I used to do, I used to have to carry a badge and a gun, and I always knew that at some point there may be a life that I would have to take, and that was going to be something that I was going to have to deal with. Now, it didn't mean that I was going to be comfortable with it. It didn't mean that I didn't train every day to make sure that if I had to do it, I could do it and make sure that I went home at the end of the day. But the simple fact of the matter is, even those of us that are put in a position where we have a career path that brings to the forefront the fact that we may or may not have to take a life at some point, that doesn't mean that we don't still hold all life as sacred. It just means at some point you have to make some choices that you're not always going to agree with. Even King David in the Bible wasn't happy about some of the things that he had done and had to do in service to the Lord at that point. And honestly, there were even times when God commanded him, because of these things that you have done, you cannot do some of these things that you're wanting to do. One of them was specifically, I don't remember if it was Saul or David, but one of them was specifically commanded that they could not be a part of building the temple because they had taken human life. Now, I bring all of this up for many reasons. First of all, if you've ever listened to the show, you know I'm not a fan of Tommy Lauren. But the simple fact of the matter is she's put in the work. She's done the time. She's done the grind. She started out, I believe it was through a YouTube channel. Then I think she went to OANN. Then she eventually wound up on The Blaze. And, I've never really liked her work. I don't, because she spends way too much time being condescending and yelly. Now, I will freely admit there are times when I get yelly, but usually when I'm trying to do it, unless it was on Finding Common Ground and I was yelling at Bryce, I never really tried to be condescending. Now, there were times with Bryce that I would be condescending, and I would be that way on purpose, because he was young and annoying, and every once in a while it was just nice to yell at him. I know that makes me a terrible person, but that's okay. I can live with that. But my whole point with this is, I think she stepped in it in more than one way. But in some ways, I think The Blaze has stepped in it even worse, because they're now making Tommy more relevant than she should have been, because now she can scream that she's a victim, because she gave a viewpoint that the place that she worked for didn't agree with, and now she's been suspended. This is not what Glenn Beck said he started The Blaze for. I remember when Glenn Beck was starting to talk about The Blaze. I remember because I was starting The Spark at exactly the same time. And I remember because we had the same idea at around the same time, and he got there quicker than I did. I started paying a lot of attention to how he was doing things, what he was doing, when he was doing it, what steps he was taking, because he was doing the exact same thing that I had an idea for. The only difference was he had money for it. The only difference was my idea has always been to have every single viewpoint that will come onto the station, because I think we work better when we come together than we do when we continue to try to tear people apart. So the fact that he had somebody on the Blaze that said something that was different than conservative doctrine, that shouldn't have been the big deal that it was. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that we need to start being more careful about the people that we ascribe characteristics to, because again, I don't think Tomi Lahren is actually a conservative. I think she's a constitutionalist, and you can make an argument that constitutionalists can still be pro-choice, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says anything about health care. Now, you can make an argument that conservatives can't necessarily be pro-choice, and we'll get into that here in just a minute as well. But we are coming up on a break, and so we're going to have to take that. As a reminder, I know I've said this already, but just in case you're just now tuning in, if you happen to follow along with the show on iTunes, I do encourage you to hit the subscribe button there. Also, if you don't mind, go ahead and give us a rating there as well. We are working on trying to get the iTunes metrics up a little bit more. So I'm not asking you to do anything that's untoward. I mean, I'm not saying give us 5 out of 5 unless you want to. That was not a hint, by the way. Actually, I'm not even sure what ranking system they use on iTunes, because I specifically stay away from that stuff. So I can't be accused of trying to monkey with the ratings of my own show. But anyway, so we've got to take a really quick break. When we come back, more on the whole Tomi Lahren situation. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We'll be back here in about 3 minutes.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 8687.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat Veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
Everything is changing. Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now. There's one to save us all.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're continuing the discussion about Tomi Lahren and can the idea of pro-choice and the conservative way of life coexist? And I think the answer to that specific question is no. And what I was getting to right before we went to break was the argument that, constitutionalism and pro-choice, those might be able to coexist. I don't necessarily agree with the idea, and again, I've said that before, but you can actually make a case for those being able to coexist because there's nothing really in the Constitution that talks about healthcare. Pardon me. One of the reasons why those of us that have been so upset about the ACA and now the AHCA have been screaming and yelling because there's nothing in there that says anything about healthcare, and yet now we're being told that the federal government is going to have to make sure that healthcare is fixed instead of letting the free market do it. All right, anyway, I'm getting off topic. So now, as far as conservatism, there's a three-pronged approach to conservatism: Bill of Rights, Constitution, and Declaration of Independence. Now, I know that the Bill of Rights is part of the Constitution, but it's still something that we look at in great detail. So there's a three-pronged approach, as far as I'm concerned, to what most conservatives believe. Getting tongue-tied here. Now, one of those, again, is outlined in our Declaration of Independence, and that is that all men, or all people in this instance, are created equally. That they're all endowed with rights given by our Creator, and those are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, the one that I think that flies straight in the face of everything is abortion. Because if you're guaranteed the right to life, who are we to decide to take it away without some form of due process? Now, this is where I get into arguments with folks that are, pro-life across the board, because they're like, well, how can you be pro-life when it comes to unborn babies and not pro-life when it comes to people that have committed things like murder? And again, maybe it's my career paths before now, because I've dealt with criminals. I've seen criminals. I've seen people that have committed murders, and I think in some ways the death penalty is, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, a deterrent. Now, I have to admit, after an interview that I had at CPAC, and I think we've played that one already, I'm kind of on the fence, because the more I research it, the more I realize that there are too many instances where people that were later possibly determined to have might actually have been innocent have been put to death. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not willing to at least look at it and say, maybe I should be pro-life across the board. Not to mention the fact that now it's become so expensive to use the death penalty. I mean, it honestly used to be a cost-saving mechanism. We didn't have people on death row for 22 years exhausting appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal, and all money from the state for attorneys and everything else. So, maybe at least from even a fiscal perspective, it might be worthwhile to look into life sentences, because apparently they're less expensive, which makes absolutely no sense to me, by the way. But we'll leave that argument for another day. But again, if you are a conservative and you are pro-choice, can you honestly say that you are an across-the-board conservative? Because in that instance, I think you would probably be a little closer to maybe the libertarian aspect of conservatism, which is fiscally conservative and more socially liberal. I mean, because I don't know of anything you could say that would be more socially liberal than it's okay to kill a child. Now, again, I'm not saying that Roe v. Wade should be overturned. That has never been my intention. I understand the genie is never, ever going back in the bottle. But I do stand by the fact that it should be safe, legal, and rare as that law intended. It is none of those things. It is not safe. We hear of case after case after case where people have gone in for abortions and something's gone wrong and they've come out either unhealthy or dead. We have seen the fact that it is definitely not rare because we now have clinics all over the place offering abortions as birth control. That was not what Roe v. Wade was intended for. So I think it's high time that we get back to actual judges that will interpret the law. And as you can tell, we're about to the bottom of the hour, so we're going to have to take another really quick break. So I'm pretty sure you can tell where we'll be going with this conversation when we get back. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We're going to change gears and talk about the Gorsuch confirmation hearings when we get back. And I'm going to hopefully be able to stop tripping over my tongue while we're on break. We'll be right back here in about 4 minutes.
Everything is changing.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writer's bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network. Radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is America Off the Rails. Well, believe it or not, we're already over halfway through the show. So we're going to change gears right now and move on to the main topic of the show, which is actually going to be the Gorsuch confirmation hearings. We have audio clips about a lot of the different things that he's been asked that I think put things in kind of an odd light for the Democrats. We're actually going to start with the first one that I saw that kind of piqued my interest, and this is from Senator Feinstein, and it's in regards to Roe v. Wade.
President Trump repeatedly promised that his judicial nominees would be pro-life and, quote, automatically, end quote, overturn Roe v. Wade. Judge Gorsuch has not had occasion to rule directly on a case involving Roe. However, his writings do raise questions. Specifically, he wrote that he believes there are no exceptions to the principle that, quote, the intentional taking of a human life by private persons is always wrong, end quote. This language has been interpreted by both pro-life and pro-choice organizations to mean he would overturn Roe.
So there we have Feinstein basically putting words in Gorsuch's mouth. Now he actually, I don't know. We actually have more audio, so let's just play some more of what he had to say, because right now I'm just ready to start screaming, and I'm trying to avoid that. So here we go. This is actually more to do with Gorsuch and felons with illegal firearms.
After pleading guilty, he was given probation. However, quote, he was repeatedly, both orally and in writing, told that possession of a firearm, end quote, violated his probation, which would mean he could not, quote, escape the consequences of his felony conviction. Less than a year later, he was apprehended by the police holding, quote, a fully loaded high-point .380 caliber pistol with an obliterated serial number, end quote, in clear violation of his probation.
Now, I played these two things because I'm not sure where they're going with these things. Because, first of all, it was, Donald Trump said that specifically the judges that he put forth would overturn Roe v. Wade. I think that was actually something that he campaigned on. I don't think he's going to have nearly as easy as a time as he thinks of trying to overturn something like that. Again, because I fully admit, even though I am diametrically opposed to abortion, that the genie is out of the bottle. I don't think there's any way to put it back into the bottle, because at this point we don't want to go back to women in dark alleys with coat hangers. If Roe v. Wade is outlawed, that is what's going to happen. Now again, I'm not... In a perfect world, there would need to be no such thing as abortion, but we are not living in a perfect world. I think there are plenty of other options. I think that's part of the problem, is we need to start educating people about what their options are again. I mean, honestly, if we would take a fraction of the money that we are actually investing tax-wise into abortion right now through something like Planned Parenthood, and actually start using that to teach people that are old enough to understand what birth control is, how to use it, where to get it, Because again, I am a Christian, and I understand that, abstinence is best practice, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I get that. But again, I'm practical. We have too many problems to keep screaming about abstinence and everything else, because that does not work. I get it. In a perfect world, we wouldn't even have to be screaming about abstinence, but this is not a perfect world. And I understand that abstinence should be taught, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we are equipping people with the ability to make sure that they don't wind up having unwanted pregnancies. And there are ways to do that without having abortion mills like Planned Parenthood. And I get it. Like I said, in a perfect world, we wouldn't even be having to have this conversation. And it upsets me that we have to have conversations like this. But again, as a practical person, I'm looking at this, trying to find ways to fix the problem. Continuing to scream and yell about how bad abortion is doesn't fix the problem, because there's people that are never going to agree with that mindset. Because they don't see it as murder, because they believe it's a clump of cells. Now, for those of you that are staunchly like I am, in the pro-life corner, you need to understand that the lovely thing about technology is there are people that are in the millennial age that are looking at these things, and they're not looking at abortion as birth control anymore, because technology is now allowing them to see that this is a tiny human being. A lot earlier than we've been told it is a tiny human being. Because we've always been told, and technology never really used to be able to tell us too much otherwise, that up until about 21 weeks, this thing was a clump of cells. It was literally like the Blob from the freaking 50s horror movie. That's what we were all told. Except the problem is nothing could be further from the truth. So the good news is, in some ways, we're making headway here that we don't realize. Because if you talk to a lot of folks between about the ages of 16 and 22 about abortion, most of them don't even view abortion as a possibility, because technology is now showing them and starting to show them that it is a person. So while a lot of them view themselves as pro-choice, and they don't necessarily want to take that ability away from people that feel like they have to use abortion for whatever reason, they themselves would never actually even think about doing that, because they know that it is a tiny little person. And believe it or not, we're already up against the break again. This is Rick Robinson. We'll be back here in about 2 minutes. Don't go away.
Everything is changing. Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now. There's one to save us all. Superman falls.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Everything is changing. Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now. There's one to save us all. Superman falls.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We're coming to the end of the show, but I do want to finish off continuing to talk about the GASIC confirmation hearings. Actually, I have a bit of longer audio from Ms. Feinstein in regards to GASIC. We're going to let that run in its entirety, so sit tight and we'll talk about it when it's done.
You know, those of us, I think on both sides, care very much about workers' rights. But the record is such that one questions whether the court is capable in its present composition to give a worker a fair shot. So I'm just looking for something that would indicate that you would give a worker a fair shot. Maybe it's in your background somewhere that I don't know about, but I'd like to have you respond to it any way you can.
Senator, I really appreciate that. And I think there is a way you can take a look at this question without me potentially prejudging a case. And I appreciate your respect for that. And just to finish that thought, I'm concerned that I have to look the litigant in the eye in the next case. And if I've prejudged that case, they can look at me and say, you're not a fair judge. And I've got no answer for that. I've got no answer for that. So what I think can give you comfort in this area is, Senator, I know a case or two has been mentioned yesterday. Respectfully, I'd suggest that does not represent the body of my work. I've written I participated in 2,700 opinions over 10 and a half years. And if you want cases where I've ruled for the little guy as well as the big guy, there are plenty of them, Senator. The Ute Indian tribe.
Would you be willing to submit some of them?
Oh,
it's
goodness.
hard to read 2,700 cases.
I'll name a bunch of them right now.
On Trans Am.
I'm sorry, Senator. Of course, Ute 5 and 6, Fletcher, the Rocky Flats case, which vindicated the rights of people who had been subject to pollution by large companies in Colorado, uranium pollution. I'd point you to the magnesium case, similar pollution case in the Salt Lake City area. Colorado's effort with renewable energy upheld that. Or versus City of Albuquerque, involving pregnancy discrimination in the police department in Albuquerque. WD Sports, a discrimination claim. Casey, Energy West, Crane. Simpson versus CU, involving young women who had been harassed by the football team. AM versus AM, Browder, Sutton. I can give you a long list.
And we'll find them and we'll read them.
And Senator, the bottom line, I think, is that I'd like to convey to you, from the bottom of my heart, is that I'm a fair judge. And I think if you ask people in the 10th Circuit, is he a fair judge, you're going to get the answer that you got yesterday from both Senator Bennett and Senator Gardner, and from General Katyal, and the same answer you got from Senator Allard and Senator Salazar 10 years ago. And Senator, I can't guarantee you more than that, but I can promise you absolutely nothing less.
Now, there's a reason I let that play in its entirety. First of all, I wanted you to hear some of the things that this man has had to contend with, because I know if you're as busy as I have been, you haven't been able to watch all of this live, so you're kind of getting it in bits and pieces, you're listening to other people talk about it. I wanted you to hear that entire exchange for a reason, because I wanted you to hear what he did there. He took every argument that she had about him being this big business goofball and turned it right on its head and started spouting case after case after case where he sided with the little guy. And he didn't just side with the little guy because it was cool to side with the little guy. He sided with the little guy because that was what the law demanded that he do. That has happened time and time and time again in this man's career. Now, last hour on Jen and Rick, Jen mentioned a point where it was actually the reverse, and it was one of the things that they were mad at him for, because he had actually sided with a trunking company as opposed to with a driver who had actually had some sort of an accident or injury. But it turns out there was a weather issue, and he was actually advised to not go out on the roads during that time frame, and he did it anyway. Therefore, the judge couldn't hold the company liable because they had tried to take into account his safety, and he chose to ignore their warnings and said, look, at this point, we cannot, in good conscience, advise you to go out in this mess. It'll be okay. And then, well, turns out that he ignored them and tried to do it anyway, and then everyone was upset because he actually sided with the company in this instance, which is one of the reasons why he's gotten this moniker of corporate stooge, which makes no sense to me, because if you look at his track record, he has actually sided with the little guy too. But again, this is what's so refreshing about listening to a judge like this, because he understands what his job is. His job is not to create law from the bench. His job is to not interpret the law, but to enforce the law. And he understands this. And that's why the left is freaking out, because they have become so used to these activist judges everywhere, including the Supreme Court. The ACA is unconstitutional on so many levels, and yet the Supreme Court let it stand. There has never in the history of this country been a product that has been foisted upon the American people where they don't have a choice. And I know a lot of you right now that are listening, well, Rick, they make us get car insurance. Do they make you buy a car? Because then it would be unconstitutional too. If they force you to buy a product and then force you to insure that product to be able to use the product, that is unconstitutional. That is what makes the ACA unconstitutional. They are forcing upon you a product that is not within their mandate. That is one of the things that the Trump administration is actually trying to deal with, is removing the government mandate for the health insurance. Now, they're not fixing the problem, they're simply shifting it, because they're removing it as a government mandate, and at that point they are making it a private insurance company mandate, which unfortunately alleviates some of the constitutional issues for the original ACA, because it's no longer the government forcing you under penalty of of excess taxes to buy a product, but the insurance company can now fine you in the event that you let your coverage lapse. Sadly, it's a fix. It's not a good fix, but it is a fix. But it's one of the things that we've been screaming about all along, and the Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom, said, well, it's not unconstitutional after all, when everyone who knows anything about constitutional law knows that it is, in fact, unconstitutional. This is why the Democrats are fighting Gorsuch tooth and nail, because they know that he will not be a legislator from the bench. He's going to be a judge and do the job that he's commanded to do as outlined in the Constitution, not become a glorified legislator. All right, we've got to take another really quick break. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. Back in about 2 minutes.
Everything is changing.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine combat veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide, I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everything is changing. Little Superman falls. Everything is breaking apart now. There's the one to save us all. Superman falls.
All right, folks, well, believe it or not, we are just about out of time. So, we did a question of the day yesterday, and I'm probably going to start trying to throw one of these out at least a couple times a week. And we've actually talked about that in the beginning of the show, but I want to give you the overall results. We had question of the day: can a constitutionalist viewpoint and a pro-choice viewpoint coexist? Out of 39 votes, we had 26% that said yes, 49% said no, 5% said why the heck not, 20% said no, what are you smoking? So with an overwhelming majority, 69% of those that actually responded to the poll actually said that a constitutionalist viewpoint and a pro-choice viewpoint cannot coexist. Again, I disagree with that on the face, only because there's nothing that specifically says in the Constitution anything about any type of healthcare, much less abortion. Now, I do think that a conservative viewpoint and a pro-choice viewpoint can't necessarily coexist, because again, there's a 3-prong approach to conservatism. It's outlined in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and also the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence specifically mentions life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So you can't say in one breath that you know that everyone is guaranteed a right to life and then take the right away just because it's inconvenient. And that is our biggest argument with abortion. It's not for the folks, because let's face it, if we used abortion for what it was intended for, we would be talking about 1% of the overall abortions right now, not the inconvenient ones. Because that's what abortion has become. It's become a form of birth control. And that is a problem for a lot of us. And it's why when someone who has had a huge platform like The Blaze, like Tomi Lahren, comes out and says, well, I'm pro-choice and this is why, we have a problem with that, because that's not what you've been telling your audience for the last several months. Now, you may have misspoken, or maybe you didn't make yourself clear enough on your own show, but it certainly seems like a misstep. And honestly, as much as I admire Glenn Beck, and I like listening to his programs and watching his TV shows, I've watched him since he was on CNN. I think he misstepped here. I don't think it was a good idea to suspend her. I really don't. Now, I know people that work at The Blaze, and I know there's more going on behind the scenes than what they're telling everybody, so maybe that's why the suspension ultimately happened. But I don't necessarily agree with it on its face, because now everyone is talking about her, including you and me. I'm using it as an example of, making sure that if you're going to put yourself in a public light, you do everything you can to actually articulate your viewpoints, which is why when I give people my viewpoints on anything, I start out by saying, this is my opinion. However, I understand that this is the law. That's how I do everything, because it makes sense to me, because then I'm not speaking out of both sides of my mouth, because I can tell you that I am staunchly pro-life and that I think abortion is abhorrent, and at the same time tell you that I also understand that Roe v. Wade is a law and it's probably never going to go away. I only wish that it would go back to being used as intended, which was making abortion safe, legal, and rare. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this particular episode of America Off the Rails. Now, of course, I will be back with you live tomorrow night right here on KLRNradio.com. Show, again, is also available on RedNationRisingRadio.com, the Liberty Channel, every Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central. Also available on the Lanterns Radio Network every Monday through Friday at 6 a.m., 5 Central. And, of course, available on AMFM247.com every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And available on CRNTalk.com every Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. So I do hope that wherever you catch the show, whether it be live or Memorex, that you enjoy the content that we're putting out. Again, if you haven't yet, I do encourage you to go over to the KLRNradio.com, outracing my tongue there, website, sign up for the newsletter, check out the new shop, buy anything that catches your eye, maybe buy one for a friend. Just do what you can to help support the station that I know all of you love, because you spend time on here with us every day, and we appreciate it. And again, take care. Good night. God bless. I'm out.